Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as you guys all know, obviously sports is getting a lot of revolutions. Each and every particular event, maybe every particular sport has just its own changes. So, my name is Oshin Sharma, and alongside me to discuss all these things, I have Mr. Sanjog Gupta, CEO Sports, JioStar. And the topic, as it has been told, is play to play, tech powering the modern sports revolution. And I'm really excited as I'm myself a big sports fan. It comes on to cricket. I think everyone out here is a fan of cricket and some other sports here and there, definitely. Kabaddi Kho, that's my kind of jam as well. So, we're at the Indian Digital Summit. So, and how have you seen the growth, digitization, and digital products impact the world of Indian sports maybe in last 5 years?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and great to be here this afternoon, almost evening. Um, well, the world has changed very clearly from what we remember of the world in 2018-19 to what the world looks like, and not just the world of sports, but the world in general. And I think sports is perhaps a reflection of the world around us as we know it. Three, four big forces have really powered this significant evolution. One is, of course, the proliferation of devices and screens. So as of today, 700 million odd smartphones, more than 200 million linear and connected TVs. I would hazard a guess that there are more screens in this room than people. And that's the world we live in. Then the ubiquitous access to data. India has the cheapest data available, and Jio and a few other telcos have played a huge role in making that possible. 15 cents per GB, which is about 1/20th that of the global average in terms of cost of data. And I think the third and final force, which is really changing everything as we know it, is just the level of digital literacy and adoption around us, right? Our identity and a sense of community is now derived from what we do on digital. The lives we lead on digital platforms are now beginning to define who we are and where we belong. And I think if one starts looking at those three and assess how that has changed the world of media and entertainment in general and sports in particular, it has created a world that none of us could imagine. You're a creator yourself. The democratization of content creation. For the longest time, and there are quite a few media and entertainment colleagues in this room, you needed resources to produce content and reach audiences, significant resources. And today, all it takes is one of those screens that you have access to and a little bit of access to data, and you could be reaching audiences in millions. So content creation has been democratized in a way that none of us could have imagined. Then there's disaggregation of choice. What does that mean? It basically means that we have more media choices than ever before. Multiple platforms, multiple content creators, multiple modes of viewing, multiple types of devices. So there's more choice today than ever before, and what that means is we are also more distracted than ever before. So it's really a war for attention, and that war for attention is typically won by someone who is able to grab it. And that has changed the way content is served and is consumed. Then there's decentralization of platforms. Most of us, when we were growing up, when we used to watch sport, the only question was, what are you watching and where are you watching it? So there was a single channel, and you tuned in at a certain time, and you watched the live match. Now, you could be in your car listening to commentary because you don't have access to video. Then you may shift from one device to the next to watch video. You may reach home, switch on your TV, watch for half an hour before someone else needs to watch something else. So you pull out your tablet and you go and start watching there. Even beyond devices, while you're watching a live game, you're also consuming tweets and you're consuming debates that are happening between different commentators about what they're posting online. So the way that we consume sports, and media in general and sports in particular, has changed dramatically. And I think the final change is really around delight and what is now par for course. You know, you look at the world around us and suddenly it's acceptable to have little headphones in your ears and be having a conversation with whomsoever you want, and that is acceptable culture. 7 or 8 years back, that would be a rarity. We are moving to a world where you could be wearing glasses and the gestures you make are allowing you to access the world. So digital delight and what defines experiences has changed dramatically, and the expectation that a consumer has for delight from digital experiences has gone up significantly. And all of that is really just what is powering the change in media in general, but sports in particular.
It also just becomes one part of good storytelling with respect to what sports actually is delivering, because like you said, content creation. So me being a content creator, it just comes down to me how I can reach the wider audience. And for that, it's always about new forms of maybe delivering content and trying to gather the information, what helps me to actually make that content. And obviously over this period of maybe 5 years or more, we have seen a rapid growth on the viewership on digital platforms like powered by Hotstar, JioCinema, and all those. So how has the experience of watching sports evolved? Because I remember it was one of your tweets. There was a match of Bangladesh versus India. A 103-year-old granny was enjoying the match, and you posted that. And obviously, you talked about Cricket World Cup, like that happened, the ODI World Cup. 16 crore viewers live joined in, and that's like highest out of any sports in the world. So the growth has been definitely massive with respect to sports and audience getting all the entertainment out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think even 6 or 7 years back, one could imagine watching an entire match on a 6-inch screen. Yeah. And today, the 6-inch screen has effectively become almost your go-to to watch the match. It's only when you're in front of a big screen do you actually watch the match on a big screen. So, like I said, the world has changed on both sides, by the way. I don't know how many of you, I'm sure most of you watched our coverage of the India Tour of Australia, the Indian team's performance notwithstanding. It was a remarkable tour because some of you may not have realized, but that the entire coverage of that tour was actually produced in Mumbai. So we used fiber connectivity with each of the venues to bring back multiple feeds and actually produce the entire coverage sitting in a central facility. You had a moment where Sanjay Manjrekar and Irfan Pathan were having an argument about who was responsible for Yashasvi Jaiswal's run out. Was it Virat or was it Yashasvi? That argument was happening between a hologram of Sanjay Manjrekar, which was going back to the MCG, and Irfan Pathan, who was actually at the MCG. And they could argue with each other, real time, live, only because of what connectivity has been able to deliver. That is a feed from the venue coming back to Mumbai, that feed from Mumbai going back to Melbourne, and then the final feed coming back. So 3 hops, all happening real time in less than a fraction of a second. And that's become possible only because of connectivity and because of digitization. And that's what's happening on the production side, where the world is now boundaryless. We are the games during the T20 World Cup, the T20 World Cup final, in fact, in the Caribbean, was also produced the same way, where we had commentators in Mumbai, commentators in the Caribbean. And what that's also doing is it's reducing our footprint at the venues. We used to have a crew of almost 80, 85 people at every game. It's now down to 25. And that's happened because of the rapid expansion of digital technology and connectivity, and that's on the supply side. on the consumption side, the question you asked me, till about 2017, most of you will remember IPL being one feed. You tuned into a channel and you watched one feed. The last IPL had 25 feeds, 10 different languages, 5 different interest feeds, one for kids, one for young adults or what we call digital natives or Gen Z, and one for women, and one for core cricket fans who wanted to watch in-depth analysis. And all of this was being served across our platforms. Today, viewership of IPL in English is less than 7%. All the other languages put together, including Bhojpuri, which has been a breakout success, constitute 94% of the total viewership for IPL. So that's how the world has changed. From a world where we used to tune in and watch one feed, one game, one broadcast, it is now a combination of 25 different broadcasts serving very different sets of audiences. And that's the level of personalization that we are now looking to deliver. Right? Every audience cohort that we identify that we can serve is being served a unique product. So the game on the field is the same, but what is being served to audiences is very different. And all of that is being powered by this rapid digitization and what technology today can enable.
And very well you mentioned about the hologram thingy that just happened. As I also remember Chiteshwar Pujara, he was in Mumbai, but then he was actually in Australia as well. So how about the experiences of people who were watching it at the stadium, like AR? We have talked about AR, we've talked about holograms. Mixed reality, is it like the next big thing, next big opportunity?
Okay, I have a quick question. How many people in this room have watched a game at the stadium? Any sport at the stadium? Oh, not bad, quite a few. And how many of you would say it was a better viewing experience than watching it on a screen? 1, 2. So, and I think that's the opportunity, right? Other than a minority here which believes that watching in the stadium was actually a better experience, most people now believe watching at home is more comfortable. You get to see replays, you get commentary. It's an enhanced experience. And I think that's where the opportunity lies. Most people who've been to the stadium to watch a game know how much you struggle for network. You almost never have connectivity. So high density Wi-Fi enables you to, is the first enabler that will allow you to experience the game in an enhanced fashion, even at the stadium. It could allow you to listen to commentary as you're watching the game, right? Location-based services. The stadium experience doesn't start when the game starts. It actually starts from the time that you leave your home. Finding your parking, finding your seat, knowing where the confectionery stands are, knowing whether you will have to queue up behind 25 people when you're going to the bathroom or just 3 if you walk an extra 10 meters. Those are all experiences that smart stadiums now enable. And I think that's there is a baseline experience which every stadium and sports infrastructure must look to deliver to fans to get them back into the stadium and give them the enhanced experience that they want. And then, of course, they're the delighter experiences which you're mentioning, which is the ability to, point your phone in the direction of a player who's on the field and get data about that player, see highlights of what the player did in the first innings or during the course of the match, be able to access the replays as and when they've happened, because that's a big part of your viewing experience. So I think the viewing experience in the stadium has both a baseline set of experiences which are connected with convenience, and then the delighter experiences which have to do with enhancements, be it mixed reality, augmented reality. Why should we not be able to order within 10 minutes the snacks we want at our seats? If today groceries can be delivered to your home in less than 10 minutes, then being at the stadium, why should you not be able to order what you want to eat or drink at your seat within 10 minutes? And that's what the ambition of an in-stadia experience should be, to both provide the convenience and the delight to audiences such that their viewing experience in the stadium is top-notch and is a reason enough for families and young kids and women to come back to the stadium.
Like being immersive with the entertainment and obviously with the knowledge as well,
Yeah.
with all these things. And you know, me being a content creator, there's one thing जिसके ऊपर मेरा ध्यान हमेशा जाता है, and that is trends, right? I always want to create content around new trends. I always want to make a YouTube video with new trends coming up. In sports, what's next and what's like the most trending thing? Like what can be a very good trend that you're excited about?
Oh, that's a tough question. What's the trend that I'm most excited about? I don't know if it's a trend or if it's just the most elemental truth. But it is the ability to serve smaller and smaller niches, and maybe in a utopian world, actually serve a hyper personalized experience to each and every viewer. I mean, if we could find, I mean, that's what technology is enabling. Today we are at 25 feeds serving different interest groups, different geographies, different demographics. All of it is towards the ambition or the ideal state where each person in this room experiences the game in his or her unique way. A fan of Virat Kohli gets the coverage in a way where his or her appetite for seeing Virat Kohli is met. Someone who's a fan of Mumbai Indians gets to watch the game from a perspective which is more inclined towards Mumbai Indians. Someone who is rooting for U Mumbai in a kabaddi match gets to know the players of U Mumbai much more than players on the other team. And that's really the one truth, the elemental truth that we're trying to stay true to, which is how do you hyper-personalize the experiences such that we are able to serve smaller and smaller niches, smaller and smaller audience segments, and hopefully, maybe in my lifetime I'll get to see it, actually serve a unique experience to each and every viewer who tunes in, instead of serving the larger audience at large.
With the advancements, I'm pretty sure ये बहुत जल्दी भी हो सकता है. We never know, right? And there's one thing that just always bothers me, and that is कुछ साल पहले तक whenever some new thing used to come, we used to call it like with the word quantum ये, quantum वो. Nowadays, the same trend has gone to AI. AI this, AI that, and every single field is affected by AI this, AI, etc., etc. World of sports, AI उससे affect हो रहा है अभी?
Oh, 100%. I think we are just stepping into what sports in the age of AI looks like. I can give you some examples of how we are seeing it play out, and these are really just initial baby steps that are being made. Today, we have the ability to use AI to generate hundreds and hundreds of variations of highlights. So from 2 minutes to 60 minutes, to highlights that only focus on Rohit Sharma or Hardik Pandya or the opposition batsman who has scored 100. All of it is being generated using machine learning with artificial intelligence sitting on top of it. So at the end of a match, we could potentially generate close to infinite variations of highlights. Now, currently we still don't have the computing power to allow users to personalize those highlights and have AI generated for them for viewers or an individual viewer based on the data you have about the viewer. But that's only down the line. It's already happening at the back end where we are able to serve hundreds of variations of highlights just by the click of a button, where the intelligence actually figures out how many sixes are hit, compiles all the sixes, how many fours are hit, compiles all the fours, takes the best moments that Virat and Rohit were a part of if they were playing in the same game, and it can generate multiple such versions based on the prompts that you're giving it, and can generate it in less than 10 minutes at times. And for the simpler ones, like a basic highlights, it generates it in 2 minutes. So that's what AI is enabling us to do, to slice and dice and compile content in different ways. Another application is we now have a set of cameras that can detect a ball on the field and players as well. So some of you may have seen it in our coverage. The names of the players along with their stats appear on top of them, even if there are six or seven of them around each other. And that's largely happening because there's an AI model which is picking up each player, being able to identify them, naming them, associating their stats with them, and actually showing them on screen. So we're taking baby steps, but what AI will do in the future, given just the sheer volume of data that is being generated, is at the moment almost unimaginable.
I've actually, जैसे ही मैंने ये सवाल पूछा मेरे माइंड में एक चीज़ आई. I was just scrolling through reels a couple of months back, and I remember Steve Smith speaking in Hindi, right? So, and that was actually enabled and generated by AI. He was talking about and telling about all those things, and it was amazing. It was just brilliant. Like maybe one of the first things that I've just seen, first of its own kind.
Yeah. And it wasn't just Steve Smith speaking Hindi. It was Steve Smith speaking Hindi with an Australian accent. And with the tone that his voice is in. So it wasn't just a language dub that, has been happening for decades now with all our, Hollywood movies and English content, etc. It was actually his voice. And that was done based on a large language model which actually studied his voice over almost 50 hours of his interviews to understand how he pronounces each letter, but more importantly, what his tonality tends to be when he says certain things. And that's how the translation was happening.
Oh, it's definitely mind-blowing, We've discussed the consumer side of things, ki agar koi audience member, if they are coming to the venue and everything, they just get all the data and all the things, whatever they want, right, on that 6-inch screen and everything. But what about the sports person, the digitization? How is it affecting a sports person?
Look, as with most technology, there is an upside and there is a downside, right? The downside is if I was to ask anyone in this room who watched the coverage of the India tour of Australia and what is Virat Kohli's weakness, you could probably have most people answering it. There was a comment made by Irfan in our commentary where he said, even a net bowler these days knows enough about the top cricketers who are featured on the coverage to know strengths, weaknesses, where to bowl, what line to bowl, what length to bowl, etc. So I think athletes and players will be found out much earlier, which will require them to raise their standard and evolve much faster than they had to earlier because of the sheer volume of data and video analysis available. On the positive side, fitness management, health markers, because all of them are wearing sensors, right? Almost all athletes now wear sensors where they're mapping their heart rate, their BP, how much time it takes them to recover from a certain level of exertion. So we will see fitter and higher performing athletes, but we will also see athletes being challenged in ways that perhaps the previous generation of athletes weren't, because there wasn't as much data, video, and just information available about each player.
I'm definitely looking forward to the new generation of athletes that's going to be evolving with their gameplays and everything. But I'm pretty sure there might just be 1-2 areas जहाँ पर digitization ने अभी तक अपना full potential impact शायद नहीं दिखाया है. What do you think might just be those areas where it's like still just in those stages, in those phases, where we haven't seen the proper impact, the full potential of digitization?
In sports?
In sports, exactly.
So I already mentioned, at least in the context of Indian sports, smart stadiums and just using technology to enhance experiences is definitely an area which we are far behind global standards. I don't know if some of you know, but Manchester City, the Premier League club, actually gave scarves to their fans which had sensors. And what they were trying to do was they were trying to, in the stadium, showcase how fans were getting tense in certain moments. So these sensors were actually measuring heart rate, pulse, and various other markers to generate a story about how the audience feels as Manchester City plays. We tried something interesting in IPL this year where we had I mean, most of us have it on our phones, the technology to measure audio levels, sound levels. And we launched a decibel meter, which recorded the loudest cheer in the IPL. Can someone guess what it was? Loudest cheer for IPL 2024. MS Dhoni? That's correct.
Always.
MS Dhoni entering the stadium the first time in IPL 2024 happened to be the loudest cheer at 130 decibels that IPL 2024 saw. So, and again, it's the use of technology to engage an audience in a way that delights them and also brings them into the game much more. I think the other area, other than smart stadiums, where there's a lot of work that technology can enable is in monetization. I think monetization models for live sport and for media and entertainment in general have not evolved at the same pace as features and content and storytelling have evolved. That is both in terms of data measurement. We still don't have cross-screen data measurement, which allows you to measure the level of engagement for a fan who moves from one screen to the other. And we know that there is immense overlap. Almost 70% of all digital viewers of IPL 2024 had also watched IPL on the big screen. But we have no way of knowing how the experiences were migrating or how the users were migrating from one screen to the other. So I think cross-screen measurement and just access to improved first-party data can definitely enable monetization and different models of monetization which haven't been experimented with. I think also this whole convergence of video, consumer, and commerce still hasn't happened at the scale at which it can happen. Just the ability to shop for something or buy something or engage with video and make a purchase while the video is still going on is still in a primitive stage. Some of the social media platforms are perhaps doing it much better than the streaming products do currently. But I think that's an area where technology can enable both user experiences with respect to shopping, but also develop new ways of monetizing streams and broadcasts in ways that haven't been seen before. That also links up with that also links up with this whole idea of converging experiences in one place. And I think, like I said, consumer video and commerce is a very interesting combination which can unlock immense value.
No, definitely, for sure. And now I think I'm going to put you in a slightly tough spot because I think हमने बहुत ज़्यादा cricket की बहुत बात कर ली है. When every single answer has had cricket in it. But what about other sports like maybe kabaddi, maybe kho-kho? So your digitization and all these advancements, they will be benefiting those sports as well. And if so, like how do you think it will happen?
Yeah, I think just the ability to reach audiences and audience niches around the country and around the world enable the sport, these sports, these emerging sports, if I can call them that, to find their audiences and also be viable in the longer term. There was an interesting showcase of kabaddi that happened in Melbourne on 28th of December. And the stadium had 6,000 seats and 5,500 were filled. And at least a half of them were Australians. And the reason why they were there was because they had seen so much kabaddi on digital platforms and wanted to get an experience of the real thing. And this whole concept of a boundaryless world where you can find an audience anywhere and you don't have to be restricted by the pipes that take your content to specific audiences allows these sports to find niches which over a period of time will sustain the sports. I think the other piece which makes the sport more viable is what digitization powers on the cost side, right? I mentioned that you don't need to send as much crew, you don't need to spend as much money to produce some of these sports. I mean, you're a content creator, you know how the cost of producing content is coming down dramatically.
Exactly, yeah.
And it just allows some of these sports to have a much longer runway to, one, find their audiences, but also find the money to sustain them. Going back to a little bit of cricket, it's only a matter of time before the streaming of, Gurgaon, a club in Gurgaon versus a club in Noida still finds audiences because there is interest in those two clubs. So we are also, what digitization is also doing is powering a long tail of experiences to still find audiences, which allows new sports to emerge, new competitions to find audiences, and also for the sports to be viable both on the revenue side as well as the cost side.
I'm honestly convinced that modern sports revolution, it's definitely here when we have all these kind of conversations. But I believe our audiences must be having a couple of questions. Now let's open the panel for the questions and discussions. If there is any query, any question from anyone.
No questions.
All right.
Okay.
All right, there's one, yeah. Sure.
Hi, I'm Kanish from Times Group. Actually, I wanted to get your view regarding.
Just hold the mic closer.
Yeah. So Ocean, I know Ocean because he's part of gaming fraternity. I'm from the gaming and esports as well. I just wanted to get your view regarding what do you think about the rise of gaming and esports industry in general.
So there are two different parts to your question. There's a gaming part and an esports part. And at times we are very guilty of confusing both. I'll answer both. I think gaming and interacting with the intention of completing tasks, broadly speaking, that's what a game is, right? With a set of rules, you accomplish a task. Is here to stay and is here to grow. How sports and gaming comes together is, again, we've taken initial steps. We have a watch and play game on our platform called Jeeto Dandanadan, which is effectively a way for consumers or users on the platform to engage, play a game and actually win prizes while watching the live stream. And I think we will only see this space expand. The second part of it, which is esports, is an interesting one. Ocean should come in because he came to us because of esports. We discovered him as an esports streamer and brought him on to the platform. Look, we've experimented a fair bit. I think as far as the audience is concerned, there is an audience for it. Is it scaled to a level where it could be one of the top 3 sports in the country? That remains to be seen. We started with something called BGMS, which is Battleground Mobile India, the Masters series for that. And we saw decent offtake for it, we saw advertiser interest for it, but we haven't seen significant scale up of audiences. It does cater to a significant niche, and that niche is unique in terms of not being available on any other sport. So it's definitely a segment that we want to continue to focus on. But there are questions around what should the competition structure be, what is the ideal game for the competitors to be playing, does it scale, how do you get an audience that's not familiar to the game to still watch? So there are questions to be answered, but there is definitely potential. Do you want to add?
And that was the reason, right? I mean, अगर आपने BGMS season 1 देखा था, in terms of the other esports commentaries that we do, we were explaining the rules more and more because in order to get the other side of the world as well to get around the side of esports. So the first season was more about explanation and all, but honestly in the esports world, BGMS was one of the biggest things, just taking it down to the first party tournaments as well, and that was the success that BGMS saw. And talking about all the other esports side of things, I think it's for us, the gamers, to explore the other esports side of things, and I'm pretty sure 2025 has just started. It'll grow even bigger.
Okay, thank you.
All we needed was a good start, and suddenly the runs are flowing.
No, I was waiting, but anyways.
I'm
So
just
my name is Anurag Khurana from a company called Panda Esports. Been part of Jio also as head of their Jio Esports, so know what we're doing. I think my two concerns, first about smart stadium that you talked. I worked on a smart stadium project 10 years back, but the problem was because of the usability, the number of days it's going to be used, that project didn't make viability, so that was dropped back then. But coming to the BMPS part, Ocean, so I've been an enthusiast about esports, but I watched it on YouTube because you had dumbed down the whole commentary. So that was not what I was used to. So you lost me as the audience, and I know Jio has the tech where you could have run both the streams on Jio platform only. But since it was so dumbed down version, I know why it was done, because I had a long discussion with Akshat also on that. So I know what it was done, but we had the tech where we could have run both the streams on the same platform. So that's my suggestion or advice for future.
And you're bang on. I won't argue with that for a second, because, and that's the opportunity that digitization offers, right? That you can uniquely serve significant niches differently, right? And when we were, our objective with BGMS season 1 was really to try and raise the level of awareness for esports, and more than anything else, build credibility for esports as a genuine sport. What had been happening, and we heard this from gamers and a lot of game streamers, that the credibility of being on Star Sports enabled them to actually be considered sports persons and not just recreational gamers. The challenge for us, which is where the dissonance comes from, was how do you make sure that an audience that's landing on Star Sports, that is not used to esports, still has a reason to consider esports a worthwhile pastime, and hence the need to dumb it down as you referred to it. But you're absolutely right. In an ideal world, just as we do with cricket, you would serve a feed meant for core gamers, and you would serve a feed for those who, what we call us samplers or stumblers, right? Who just chanced upon something interesting, are curious, but don't know enough. So I won't argue with that for a second. That is the right approach. You have to identify niches which are significant and uniquely cater to them instead of just serving one version of the sport.
Anyone else? I think, yeah, we saw a hand here. Yeah, you, sir.
Yeah, hi, Vishwalok. I'm the business head of gaming and esports in India today. So continuing what Anurag and Kanish said. In fact, Kanish has been a part of my team earlier. So we, as India Today, we started esports around 2019, brought the first Free Fire tournament in the country. In fact, did the first IPL called Esports Premier League and partnered with Hotstar also. And now this year, there's Esports Olympics, which is going to happen, right? So the industry has come a long way. But I really feel like my last experience with Hotstar when we did the ESPL, and now the BGMS and everything is happening. I think this is the next big sport after cricket, which is really going to grow. Because, cricket is so big in the country because we played cricket in our childhood, right? And we know the rules of the game. We know there are 6 balls in over, there's a white ball, no ball, everything. And that is the reason we enjoy that game. And we, watch all formats of that game. But if you look at the kids, which are like 12, 15, 18 years old, they understand the rule of the game in Free Fire. They know the rules of the game in BGMS and, the BGMI and everything, right? So this is the next kind of a game. So there, the OTT, platform really need to come forward, organizing the tournaments, maybe, giving that platform and also maybe educating the other people who does not understand this game. Because this audience definitely going to come to you. These kids who knows this game will definitely come and watch. But the other hundreds and millions of people who are there on Hotstar would not know that. For them, you need to make it easy. You need to make it like, adapt to those kinds of audiences. Then only this is going to grow. And I think that is where you really need to play a bigger role rather than just the esports organizers. Because currently, all the publishers are international publishers. The Indian companies are not investing that much. And that is where I think, OTT players needs to come in a big way.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a question there, but the whole purpose of partnering with Nodwin to launch BGMS was to, one, build out a proposition for esports on a mass scale platform like Star Sports, right? As I said, the intention was build credibility so that non-participants take it seriously. See, there is a paradox in sport. The paradox and that's true for any sport. The number of participants in that sport tend to be a small fraction of the total number of viewers. And that's true for sport anywhere in the world. The number of people who watch cricket will be significantly larger than the number of people who have played cricket or have been to the stadium, right? The fandom tends to be a much larger universe. So if esports needs to have, and again, I'm very careful about using esports because the big mistake that we make is we start defining the category. It's actually by each game. Because I may be a gamer who plays game X, but not know game Y. And then my knowledge and my interest will not necessarily transfer. And I think when we launched it, we wanted to do was we wanted to build enough comprehension for the game to be enjoyed, or the mechanics of the game or the competition to be enjoyed by those who weren't gamers already. If we keep going after the gamers, we're not going to be able to scale up esports. Like you're saying, we have to go and capture an audience which may not be gaming actively, but has an appreciation or curiosity about the game. Do we need more tournaments? Absolutely. But we also need a proposition which is not limited to just being about game, for the gamers, by the gamers, and of the gamers. That's not, if cricket was watched only by those who play, cricket won't be as big as it is today. And that's the larger ambition that the entire fraternity needs to have. Whether it's publishers, whether it's organizers, whether it's broadcasters / streamers, everyone needs to come together to say, how do we grow this? And how do we reach newer audiences? Not be content with gamers.
And to actually add up with that, so Nodwin and Hotstar actually joined hands a couple of years before as well, before BGMS, and that was for ESL India Premiership that had multiple games under its roof. It had Counter-Strike, because I was doing commentary for all those things. It had Counter-Strike, Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, FIFA, Tekken, and a couple of other more games as well. So yeah, I mean, there were the initiative that was taken out there. But yeah, hopefully, again, 2025 we'll see more of it.
Sorry, that was the last question. We won't be able to take more questions, Ocean.
All right, for sure. So I think that just, that does bring us to an end to the entire conversation. But before we just, end this one up, Sanjog sir, is there something that you want to just tell the audience, or is there something that just is on your mind?
What my mind?
Maybe some piece of advice, maybe something, anything that just, you want to address to the audience.
No, I think we're entering a really fascinating age of convergence between creativity and imagination on one side and technology on the other. And what it can fuel are just infinite possibilities. So the one thing that's on my mind all the time is, one, what does the future look like? And are we doing enough to shape the future? And two, are we really harnessing the full potential of creativity and imagination, which are largely human endeavors, and technology to build what hasn't been imagined or build what we believe the future looks like. And I think that convergence of imagination and creativity and technology fueling possibilities is what, one, keeps me up at night to question myself as to whether we are doing enough of it, and two, makes me most excited about the future.
Well, that's just amazing, and thank you for all the words of wisdom that you've just shed the lights on. And thank you very much, guys. You guys have been an incredible audience. That's it from this panel, and hopefully we'll see you very, very soon. Thank you.